Hello, everybody. Looks like it's just Rob and I tonight. We're hoping that somebody might pop in later. Kasisi is celebrating his first anniversary, so tonight. So obviously that took precedence over talking with a bunch of old fogies like us. So,
Yeah. Well, why would you do that?
right.
First one. You definitely want to do the first one right. Right?
That's right. We're going to be doing our 45th one this year, so woohoo!
I'm going to have to sit and do the math. I believe it's 40, just off the top of my head. Yeah, something like that.
Well,
42. Nope, 42. 42.
Over here is Mr. Rob Davis, penciler of 37 years. Well, how long has it been now?
Since 86 is when I got my first professional job, but it wasn't as comic books. It was in role-playing games in 86. And then in 89 is when I started doing comics.
Yeah,
the way I look at it. 86, I was doing some stuff for Now Comics, but I really didn't feel like I was a full-fledged professional until 89. I started working at Eternity on Scimitar. By then, I'd kind of gotten my chops together and I knew what I was doing. But it's 86.
I technically started in 88 with Eternity Comics. But with production and everything, they don't show up for several months.
Right.
So my first book didn't come out until 89. So I don't know if you consider it from the time I started or from when my first book appeared.
I consider it from the time you start the work.
I got hired.
That's the way I do it. Yeah, from the day you get hired and start actually sitting at the board and doing work, or as today it would be at the computer screen. But yeah, from the first day because you're getting paid from that day. The work you're doing at that point, you're getting paid for it. So,
but in a lot of people's
hopefully getting paid for.
In a lot of people's eyes, and in like future employers and stuff like that, they'll ask you, "Have you been published?" Tom is, my God, Tom is here.
Ah, lovely. Thanks, Tom.
You're very welcome. How are you two guys feeling?
Oh, much better.
Better than last week.
Oh my God. I'm sorry I missed last week, everybody, but you would not have wanted me to be here because if I wasn't coughing, I was sucking snot. And if I wasn't sucking snot, I was blowing snot into a Kleenex.
I don't know why that sounds bad.
I sounded like this. So you would not have wanted me to be here.
Come on. That would have been recorded. We would have played that forever.
That's right.
I probably would have passed out halfway through because I was just no energy.
Even funnier.
For those that don't know you, Tom, quickly introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Tom Mason. I've been in comics for a very, very long time, and I've worked with both Barb and Rob Davis over the years. So hi.
He was my editor.
That's right.
That's when I started at Eternity.
My editor too. One of my editors. Chris Allman's my other one.
I tried to find as much work for you two as I possibly could.
Yeah, and you did for quite a while. Yeah.
Until I was removed from that position and moved into marketing, and then I can't help anybody.
Well, one of the very first people I made friends with in this industry was Bob Wayne.
Wow.
DC
Bob
Marketing.
Wayne had a friend?
Yes, actually.
Wow, this is incredible news to
me. Educational, aren't we?
I learn something every day.
And for those who don't know, he was one of the marketing guys for DC.
Yes.
But when I got in, I didn't know anybody, so I assumed that everybody was either a fan or a professional, and I treated everybody the same because I didn't know who I was talking to.
Well, and the weird thing is, you meet somebody as a fan, and 3 years later, they're in a position to hire, or they know things, and they met you and they say, "Hey, I don't know, that's not for me, but Barb might want to do it, or Rob might want to do it," and so you just you never.
And that's why you never stab anybody in the back or be mean to anybody
on the ladder. Don't step on anybody on the way up because they might be your boss later.
Yeah,
you might need somebody to catch you when you trip on the ladder later
Also,
on.
it's a very, very tiny industry. I mean,
Yeah.
we think it's big, but it's really tiny. Even before the internet, it was a tiny industry, and everybody knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Never badmouthed anybody.
one of the things people did when they got together at conventions in those days was basically gripe about somebody they hate. So,
Yep. Never badmouth
Yeah,
anybody.
the
Never
word
stab
got
anybody in the
around pretty
back.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
the word got around pretty quick about
I've
who
never
not
worked
to
with
work
that
with.
person.
But then I'm such a sweet person anyway. Okay, folks. Tonight we are going to touch on manga, Japanese manga versus American comics, and why the Japanese model seems to be working so much better than the American model at the moment.
Excellent.
In a
I have
recent,
nothing but opinions.
yeah,
Well,
well,
me too. Me too. I
uh,
mean, yours will be better informed than mine, but because I'm mostly on the creative side, but you've been on the managerial side of things.
Oh,
So
also,
marketing. Uh-oh.
what have we got here?
Uh-oh. What's he got?
I also wrote the latest Stitch manga book.
Oh my God!
Congrats.
Hang on,
Congrats.
hold that up again.
Yay!
All right, everybody, round of
That is so
applause.
cool.
Right near
Yeah.
the bottom. I wrote it.
That is so
right to left and right to left and everything. So,
And I just recently completed a bunch of trading cards for Japan's Ultraman.
ooh, I love
So,
Ultraman.
yes.
I have no
I
credit on anything like that, so I'm out this time.
A goofy looking original character design.
and this
Yeah.
this actually segues right back into what we were just talking about before here, is that I hadn't done trading cards or anything like that for years and years and years. And then 30 years after the fact, I used to work at Valiant with Jeff Gomez.
Right.
30 years later, he calls me up out of the blue. Says, "Would you like to do some trading cards on Ultraman?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
No, of course not.
But I hadn't seen or talked to him in 30 years, but he remembered me.
Yeah.
Because I was nice and I was professional.
That's the networking. Yep.
And that's the thing too. Sometimes people who've been in the business a long time, they will go back to their trusted people over the new TikTok people.
Yep. And let me tell you, that was a sweet gig. Hello. Hello. How are you? Is that Liesel?
What is that?
Are you in the Sound of Music?
Liesel?
That's
Liesel.
right.
Okay.
Okay, back to anime and manga. The manga has exploded across the demographics, and I'm reading here, but you can probably tell, and geographies through genre diversity, digital accessibility, and multimedia integration that American publishers have failed to replicate. In 2024, Japan's anime industry reached an unprecedented 25.25 billion in total market value.
With a B.
Billion with a B.
Wow.
With overseas revenues surging 26% to 14.27 billion.
Get me some of that.
Yeah, the global manga market itself reached 12.6 billion.
Yeah.
That's a lot of that's a chunk of change.
Yes.
Project growth is projected to be 24.6 billion by 2033 for manga alone.
For manga. Huh.
So what are they doing that we aren't? And
probably telling good stories.
Well, they're telling diverse stories. They tell everything from slice of life to one of my favorites, which is
baseball
reincarnation stories.
Oh, okay.
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, One Punch Man.
I actually read quite a bit of manga. I actually read quite a bit of manga on Tapas and Webtoons on digital platforms. And they're huge.
Yeah.
The digital platforms, they have thousands of things, of content. The content is out of this world.
Yeah.
But most of it, a lot of it's romance.
Right. And a lot of it is crazy romance like girl demon or demon first and boy, or unicorn and girl or something. There's just it's all over the place.
Yeah, and that's just it. They have a niche for everybody.
Yes.
The only thing I don't think I've seen them do is westerns.
You mean like cowboy westerns?
Yes, cowboy westerns.
Yeah, I don't recall having seen one. No,
because I'll tell you, horses are hard to draw.
Oh God.
Yeah, yes, they are.
Yes,
Yes, they are. Let me see here.
I know
Just
one
ask
artist.
Rob how picky I was when I was inking his horses.
Guns, yeah.
Yeah.
She was, but yeah, here's.
Yeah. Tired of that.
I have it handy. Plus, I have a very deep morgue file of magazine pictures of horses that I've
Also,
trimmed out. So yeah,
you can look at Gil Kane's Western covers in the 70s for Marvel on their Two Gun Kid, Rawhide Kid, Kid Cold Outlaw reprints. A master of the craft, especially at drawing both horses and men with hats.
Yes. That's another thing I notice is
men with hats.
Most modern artists can't draw a hat on a head to
no,
save
it always
their soul.
it looks
It
weird.
looks funky.
Yeah,
it looks funky.
Yeah.
And I think what it is they don't see people with hats.
Right, and they don't wear them. They don't wear them themselves, except
so they don't know how they work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The biggest thing I had to get over reading manga, there are two biggest things, was that the prominent art style for manga is the two big eyes and the very pointy chins and the noses. That's an art preference that's very, very popular, but I had to overcome my art prejudices.
Well, and the big mouth whenever they get excited or shocked or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the other one was that they put sound effects for everything, even the obvious things like thud, 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 thud for the footsteps. I'm like, yeah, I can see he's walking. Why do you put thud, thud, thud? But they do. They use just bizarre sound effects for everything. But if you can get past that, I really started to enjoy it, and now I'm hooked.
Right. That's how they get you.
Well,
the cigarettes of comics.
Yeah.
We shot ourselves in the foot back in the 50s when Seduction of the Innocent and the whole Comics Code Authority. Back then, Japan was already doing manga. Yes. And it was a part of their daily culture. They were on the newsstands like newsprint. They would
read them on the train. They'd read them, on the train on the way to work. All age groups read them.
Yes.
It wasn't just for kids like it became in the United States.
Because I was on a show, we did a show with Ben Dunn on the Sunday stream, and Ben Dunn, who knows this stuff, has said that in Japan, kids will get because they commute by train. There's no school bus. They don't walk to school. They commute by train. There's a newsstand of some sort at the train station where their home is. They can buy a big fat book of manga for like the equivalent of $1.
Yeah.
They can read it on the train on the way to school. And because it's disposable, they just leave it on the train for the next person and go to school. And
it's a self-perpetuating industry.
Yeah, that's how comics used to be in the United States back before the 1950s. Yeah.
Before the Puritans came in and peed on everything.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is so prevalent over in Japan that, and again, I'm reading, that Japan's government recognition of anime and manga as strategic cultural exports through the Cool Japan Initiative further distinguishes these industries. A national goal of the government is of tripling overseas content sales to $131.4 billion by 2033.
I think Japan as a culture encourages people to read and use their imagination, and America pretends to, we want you to read, and then you pick up a comic book and they go, not like that.
Yeah.
What you should be reading, you should be reading James Fenimore Cooper and
Moby
Leather
Dick
Stalking Tales and all that other stuff. And we make it very specific in America about there's good reading and bad reading, and comic books fell into the bad reading, and they shouldn't be. They should not be.
But they were able to completely skip over that whole Comics Code Authority thing. They started out and they just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And while we started out strong, and then all of a sudden we had the brakes put on by the Comics Code Authority. We had to reinvent the whole industry, and still it had a bias and a perception.
Well, the Comics Code Authority was created so that the government didn't do it. The Comics Code Authority was created by
they were afraid the government would do it.
Yeah, we self-censored. We self-censored ourselves.
We self-censored, and in
the
large
movie
part,
industry did the same thing.
Yeah,
it eventually worked out,
but we shot ourselves in the foot.
Yes, and we did. The Comics Code Authority was created for that reason, and also because they wanted to push out people they didn't like. So they wanted to get rid of Bill Gaines, and they wanted to get rid of EC Comics, and they wanted to get rid of horror comics, and they didn't. They were afraid that the moms of America would crap on them, so they got rid of all the the so-called bad people who made awful comics, and they went with a more Puritan approach. So
now, something else that the manga does that we don't see a lot of. We do see some of it, but we don't see a lot of. We saw it in Strangers in Paradise, and that's where there is a set beginning, middle, and end to the story. Most of them, even though some of these storylines can last for years, they do have an end point in mind. Whereas American comics will keep on flogging the same horse for decades and decades. We'll do reboots, retcons, we'll go into alternate universes, but we still hang on to our same characters and just drive them into the ground.
Because a lot of manga, and again, I'm way generalizing here, is that a lot of manga is creator driven. Because like the guy who does One Piece, it's that guy.
Yep.
And when One Piece is over and he leaves to go do another thing, the publisher won't continue One Piece with a new bunch of people.
That's right.
And so that's a key difference.
I've seen a creator bring on new talent in some of my webtoons, but it's always the same creator who's the driving force behind it all.
Yes.
And if you come on, you have to mimic the old style as much as possible.
And also the manga, a lot of manga is integrated with the anime. So if there's stuff on the TV or on the movie screen that is also the manga, and it looks like right now, if you like a Batman movie in America, you can't find a Batman comic book that looks and feels like that movie.
No.
But if you like One Piece the anime, that's exactly like One Piece the manga.
Yep.
And so and there's only one of it. There's not 30 different One Piece books published every month, and you have to get all of them. There's just one book.
Right.
And it looks just like the cartoon or the movie that you saw. And that's the key difference.
This is one of the things that they do very well is they integrate. They integrate their manga with the anime and with their video game adaptations, with their merchandise. It's all integrated together, and they push this. A lot of times they will give you free previews or free bits and pieces to get you hooked, and then once you're hooked, and then they draw you in,
like cigarettes.
It's like cigarettes
and drugs.
That's right. Everything. You get a little bit free behind the school, and
give them a little bit of taste of it, and then
because they see a larger picture.
That's right.
Which is, we'll give you a free taste, and if you like it, then there's the manga that comes out once a month or whatever, and then there's the anime that's on TV, and then we'll make a movie out of that, which is on the big screen, and it's just, and then there'll be toys, and there'll be window displays in every toy store and bus stop and everything. So it's a whole integrated process.
It is, and a lot of the free stuff that I'm talking about, they will start you, and I've been caught up in this many times. I read probably a dozen or more web comics and manga or web comics, and they start you out with free digital content.
Yes.
See, and then you get 15 episodes in, and then all of a sudden you got to pay for the next one. And by then
Right.
it's too late. You are sucked in.
And there's not an American company ever that's going to give you 15 copies of something or 15 episodes of something for free.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to get 15 issues of a comic book for free online or in the store to sort of build that interest. No one's going to do that because in America, every foot of real estate has to turn a profit.
That's right. They also have a very high volume and a fast-paced release with manga. They're often produced as weekly or monthly anthologies or even thick books. And it's black and white mostly because they can turn it out faster.
Well,
But they're used to that.
And they don't have a culture that admires the backgrounds or the detail that American comics do. They're more into the fast pace and the emotion of a scene, not the
Yes.
actual beauty of the multi-layered art. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying it's two very different approaches. Because the thing about manga, like when I'm reading webtoon stuff, it's moving, it's fast. My finger can barely keep up with the stuff that's happening. But I rarely flip a screen up or turn a page in a book of manga and go, wow, look at that double page spread, and then linger over it, which I do a lot in American comics. So it's an entirely different way of producing the material.
Well, it's very dynamic and emotion focused art.
Yes.
And it's a very linear and coherent stories too. Like I said, there's a beginning, middle, and end. I don't know why it's so hard for American comics to copy that, but
well,
maybe it's because, for one thing, we're not used to it.
Right.
We haven't been drenched in it from the day that we're born.
Well, I think, I don't know, maybe, again, this is the part where I could be really, really wrong, but I think America looks to that and tries to copy it without understanding it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like nobody breaks it down like how does this work? Why does this work? Why it's so popular? It's just like, well, we should just do black and white and we should copy the art style. And I think you lose when you try that.
That doesn't work.
You got to do the storytelling style too.
What they also, what it seems like they miss to me is that a lot of manga is drenched in the society of Japan. There's mythology that it references, that it gives it a richness that it might not have otherwise. It's kind of like Star Wars. When you first saw that first movie, everything looked like it had been around a while.
Yes.
Felt like there was history to what was going on the screen. And you get that with manga, even though there's not a lot of background stuff, but there's references that it makes that we Americans don't catch those, but the Japanese do, because it's part of it's referencing their culture.
Because I think the manga characters or the anime characters and the storytelling approach do reflect the culture of Japan. And so it's all like it's all a big piece of the pie. Whereas in America, it's just, Batman is fighting the Joker. That's not really culturally significant or culturally interesting like manga would be. And I'm not saying that to put down Batman. It is what it is, but it doesn't.
And occasionally, American comics are written that way. You get
Yes.
There is some cultural reference, but it's rare, and it hasn't been built in as part of the whole way comics are done.
But I think
Bone is another American comic that comes to mind that is sort of goes along that line. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
And
if
black and white.
You mentioned this earlier, like Strangers in Paradise. because it is steeped in American culture and
Yes.
and relationship culture. And I think the Brothers Hernandez in Love and Rockets is very
Yes.
steeped in
Exactly.
their
It's been
culture.
done.
And
It
then
has been
those
done,
aren't
yes.
Marvel and DC stuff. Those are people who are steeped in a certain culture who are
They were
recreating.
award winning, and that they were award winning for a reason. And I wish that more American artists and writers would have sat up and said, "Why?
Right, because
Why aren't these award winning?"
I don't see anybody taking apart Strangers in Paradise to try to figure out how that's done. And I don't see anybody looking at Love and Rockets going, how does Jaime Hernandez do that? What is it about his work that resonates so well with that audience? Why is that guy winning so many awards? You should be looking at that thing like a map and taking it apart like you're in a science lab and trying to figure out what the ingredients are that makes it. Don't copy it by just trying to make it about a Mexican family or whatever, or a Mexican village. Don't copy it that way. Figure out how he took that and
why
built
it resonated so well. And that's another thing, that why are so many American teens being turned on to manga? Well, that's because the overall themes that they are touching on in these manga stories resonates with everybody. Romance, the teen angst. I mean, come on. Even though it's a different culture and stuff, it still has generic themes that everybody can relate
It
to.
has human themes. Themes, yes.
If you're a human and you love a demon and the demon doesn't love you back, and you've got till third period to figure it out, that's who can't relate to that? But I think,
well, in some ways, yes, I've loved a few demons in my life.
Yes, I have. Who hasn't made a mistake, Rob?
Exactly.
But I think
first husband.
But I think also there's the what I call the Applebee's rule, which is why those kids today don't eat an Applebee's, and why they don't wear Levi's jeans, and why they're not interested in the things of their parents or their grandparents. And I think a lot of kids are looking at Batman comics or Marvel comics and going, well, I get that at the movies now. That's my TV shows. But the thing that's me, the thing that I have found, because when I was a kid, it was really important for me to find music my parents weren't listening to find books my parents weren't reading, to find comics that my parents didn't even know about, and make those my things. And I think
stuff that spoke to you,
right?
Rather
for
than
a generation, because the Deerslayer and Last of the Mohicans are not going to speak to me as a modern teenage youth. So, but manga.
Oh, I got in so much trouble. My mom forbid me to read The Exorcist. So I hid it at school, and I would read it during study periods, right? Except somebody took a picture of me reading it and put it in my yearbook.
And
my
Mom, that's a joke photo, Mom. We just set that up. I wasn't really reading it.
Yeah. But because my mom forbade me to read it. Well, of course I had to read it.
All the more reason for you to read it, right?
That's right.
I think there's a generation of kids for whom manga is their thing.
Yeah.
And so, and I think the thing about manga for American kids also is that it's very easy to get into. Like if you like One Piece, there's only one book, and it comes out on a regular schedule. You don't get One Piece Team Up, and you don't get One Piece 2-in-1, and you don't get One Piece Brave and the Bold. You get just One Piece, and that's it. And it's entirely possible that you don't like any other manga thing except One Piece, and you wait for that thing to come out. And or it could be Spy Family, or it could be One Punch Man, or it could be anything. And it's, you don't have to get all of it. And American comics is very impenetrable.
And that one of the points that I noticed online here was that manga gives you what you just said, easier entry points.
Yeah.
New readers can start with volume 1 of a series without needing to understand decades of backstory or crossovers, making them far more accessible than mainstream American comics.
Right. And from, again, I'm way generalizing here, but the manga that I have read, like, it gets right to it. Like,
Mhm.
you know right away what's going on.
That's
Boy
true.
loves demon, aliens are invading the planet, whatever. And it's just,
Yeah, comics and American comics used to be done that way,
yes.
but starting with Marvel and getting caught up in the soap opera of continuing stories and building and making everything fit together.
Right.
We lost all that, and we have not in any way attempted to get back to it.
Yeah.
So
Well, this is a quote somebody said online is American comics increasingly resemble museums preserving superhero continuity for aging collectors rather
Yeah.
than living industries creating new stories. This divergence explains why Pokemon and Jujutsu Kaisen thrive globally while Batman and Spider-Man increasingly depend on
So
film licensing for cultural relevance.
so this is where the danger of American comics exists, because starting back right about the time, let's say Jack Kirby, where Jack Kirby was asking for some of his rights and some of his art back, there's a generation of publishers at Marvel and DC and others for whom, if you work for us, we own everything. And so for a creator who has a vivid imagination, you're not going to be creating new characters for Marvel and DC. So Marvel and DC are sort of forced by contract necessity to just repeat the old characters over and over again, because nobody's going to create new things for them and lose the rights and not be participants in the profitability. And so I think there's been a giant gap since the late 70s, early 80s, where if you have an idea for, like, you're writing a Batman story and you suddenly get an idea for a great new character, you're not going to put it in Batman. You're just going to go, I'll just use the Joker again, and you'll go do a different character. Or and if you, like Eric Larson said, you'll save your good stuff for yourself,
mhm.
because there's no, other than the thrill of immediately working for Marvel or DC, there is no long-term reward for creating characters for them. Even in the billion-dollar movie characters, they're just giving the original creator like $5,000, if at all.
And their names on the screen.
Right. Ooh, that's
See,
exciting.
that's my name on the silver screen.
That pays
Well,
the rent.
I'm an
Look, Daddy
IBDM
got
too.
screwed out of $1 million.
That pays the hospital bill, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. I can use that on my GoFundMe. And so,
Yeah.
and
I'm
so
in IMDb. I've got my name in there.
right.
It hasn't done a damn thing for me.
No. And so I think there's a generation of creators that aren't going to be. The reason why there's no new stuff at Marvel and DC is because the people who want to create new stuff are not going to go to Marvel and DC to create it, because they're not going to get, that $5,000 in the screen credit.
So how would you fix it?
Make a better contract.
Well, not if you were Marvel and DC, what would you do to bring fresh, new blood, new stories, new characters? What would you do to do that?
So they had that at DC. The original Vertigo was that way.
Yeah, Vertigo.
You create something for Vertigo, and yeah, we're going to own it. We're going to own it 100%. However, this is your participation, and these are all the areas where you'll participate. And people were doing pretty well for stuff like that. And then over the time, as DC got sold to other corporate entities, the Vertigo contract was changed, and they said, you know what? Nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to have the same contract that DC does. And you'll notice all those Vertigo creators left. Like Saga.
Bye.
Saga was a Vertigo book.
Sandman was a Vertigo book.
But they changed the contract, and Saga became an Image book. And the two creators of Saga are now, benefiting from that tremendously, whereas under the Vertigo system, they would not. And I think go back to a contract on the level of Vertigo or better, and encourage.
Let's say you're the head of Marvel or DC now.
Right.
Would you say, come and create stuff for us 50-50?
Or whatever.
Yeah. It'll be 50% owned by you, 50% owned by us, and we'll split the profits. Would that work?
No, because you don't say profits.
Oh.
because profits are monkey points. Profits get hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Uh,
That's how movie
so what you really
producers
say
screw you.
is, because even if you do this, even if you create a character for DC or a book for DC, and then you say, okay, I want 30% of all the money that comes into DC based on my book. So all the licensing money, all the toy money, I want 30% of that off the top.
and then 1% on the back end.
And then I want 10% of all licensing, and that comes into DC. And then I want pick a small number. I want $100 for every SKU, every SKU for licensed toys. So every single figure that's made over in perpetuity, and I want this to be transferred to my heirs. And
Can you
then
be my agent?
and so no one's going to listen to me. I mean, what I'm saying is very rosy that no publisher will ever take care of, but it would benefit everybody to be even that fair. But then a DC could still cheat you because they could sell your book to Warner Brothers, which owns DC, but they could sell it at a cheap license, like $1, because they're the same company, and then you get 30% of that. And so that they're just self-dealing at that point. So you'd have to have a clause in there that says, if you self-deal, I get this. And then for every sequel, you want a flat rate in addition to your percentage. So if you create Jerkman and Jerkman's a big hit and they do Jerkman number 2, when that's greenlit, you get $100,000 flat fee in addition to your own percentages from your previous contract, and so on and so on. So you could set yourself up to have a really good retirement and really good health care when the time comes. But they're not going to do that.
No, because that'll take too much money away from them.
Right, because they see an equitable share of the money as you being a taker. And that's not true, but that's how corporations see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And they don't, and if they don't value the human brain that creates things, they just value the stuff that's created because that can make money. I can get other brains to work for me. I don't need your specific brain, even though you actually do.
There's Javier.
Hey, Javier.
We're talking about how we would try to make the American model more fair so it would match what the Japanese model is. And it'll never work.
The other thing they do is they create creator-owned comics, or have in the past, but they don't fit into any part of their universe. They really just stand alone, and so they all become orphans.
Are we talking American comics?
American comics.
Yeah, American comics, yes.
And so then that's proof to them anyway, that creator-owned comics don't work. So they don't want to give that contract to actual creators. So how
would you go about, Javier, Tom, making the Japanese model of creating comics work in America?
Small children. Make them draw for me. I don't know. No, honestly, it would have to be more of a consortium. You would have to have I think the studio system would work, because you would have somebody who does only buildings, someone who only does females, one who only does children, one who only does bicycles, and you would just pass those pages along. I mean, at least that's the way Jademan Comics did it back in the day. He had a huge studio, and every person was good at one thing, and he would just pass those pages out. Tony Wong would pass them out, and that's how we could create all these comics that all had the same look. Well, that's because they had the same artist doing the faces, only faces, and that's how they were able to produce so much material
and so fast.
Fashion.
That's one of the things that we had touched on earlier, was that the rapid high volume production that they put out is so much faster and chunkier than what American comics produce.
Yeah.
And it gives you more bang for your buck.
Well, because if you look at, Warner Brothers cartoons are not the only ones that were produced this way during the golden age of cartoons, but they had They had a background guy. They had a layout guy. They had a guy who did Bugs Bunny. They had a guy who did the crazy expressions. They had a guy who did Elmer Fudd. So when the two of them are in the same scene together, it's two different guys working on it. And so they had the same approach that Javier is talking about at Jade Man, which is everybody had their specialty. And then they had, and the writer, in this case, Michael Maltese, he didn't submit a script. He sat there in the room with the artists, and they sort of plotted it out with index cards and whatever else they used, so that they were writing it and creating the gags and the story as they were sketching it out. And so everybody was integrated into the process.
So it's built like a Disney film.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's how Disney films are built. It was they'd have a wall of sketches, and each one would be a storyboard of a scene. And they go, well, does this one work with the context of everything else?
Yeah.
You had all these people constantly picking at it and moving things around, tightening up the scene. So yeah,
and that's why when they created the Writers Guild of America, and they desperately wanted Disney Studios to join, Disney said, "I will join, but my writers are not going to be called writers. They're going to be called storymen, and they're not going to have the benefits of the WGA." And the WGA said, "Okay, we want." So Disney, the reason why Disney doesn't pay their writers royalties on stuff is because they're storymen. They're not writers. Storymen aren't covered by the WGA contract.
Well, I mean, in Japanese manga creators, what little I know about them is that they also live and breathe and die for their art.
Yes.
Now, I do that for several things, but art is not in the top 3. And that's just the way I have to live. I have to live for my family. I have to keep my health, and art comes 4th or 5th after those things. Over there, from what little I know, they literally can live together, work 18, 20 hours a day. They eat ramen together. They don't even bother heating it up. They pass out drawing, which I've done, but that's no fun. And they just wash, rinse, repeat constantly. And that's the only way their output is so great from a team of 3, 4, 5 people.
And that's culturally how Japan is.
Yes. And
the Japanese are built that way.
Can any
their
of our
culture's built that way?
Live our art like that?
I did when I first started, but then I couldn't do that. I would work 16 hours a day, and I had kids.
Yeah.
But I also had a husband who took care of me.
There you go.
Yeah, so, I found working until like 1 o'clock in the morning while everybody else was asleep made it easier. I'd get up later and get late in the day.
I do the reverse. I get up at about 5:30, and that's my golden time. Everybody else is asleep. I don't have to walk the pets or nothing like that. Everybody's asleep. I can just
the
get
opposite
stuff done.
of what I did. Yeah.
And then, it's breakfast time.
There was a reason why I was the it girl all during the 90s, that I would, give it to Barb, she'll finish it. And I'd do 2, 3 issues a month plus covers. It's because I work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
If you had 3 or 4 allies doing the same work you did together on one book, you guys would have been sensational. It would produce 7 books in 4 months.
Yeah.
But
that's what living in the Midwest did for you, though, is that you didn't live close to other creators. I mean, Barb had several.
I did. I lived in Madison. Madison had a lot of.
But where I lived, I live 9 miles from the closest town.
Right.
We had a whole community of.
You're the local comic book guy.
Yeah, and the artists lived 2 hours drive away. That I knew, the other ones that I knew. So it was all on me. So
in the early days of New York comics in the 70s, like Chaykin, Simonson, and all those guys, Cluda, Wrightson, they all lived in Manhattan, and many of them lived together in an apartment because they were sharing rent, and they had a studio where they also ate and lived, and
continuity,
And when you saw issues that were group inked or group penciled, that's what they were doing. They were passing pages around, either going up to Neil Adams' studio where he had space, or finding space that they had themselves to pass pages around to get them done. I once saw Rudy Nebreeze inking a couple of pages after a comic convention, sitting in the hall with a bunch of his other artist friends, trying to meet a deadline while still being able to go to the con.
Yeah,
so that's.
I took work to the cons.
Yeah.
Another thing that manga does is that I think American comics focus too much on a certain stereotype of reader, whereas as manga, they have books that are specifically focused towards young women, older men, younger boys, children. They try to fill all of these genre and the niches. They don't specifically go for the fanboy superhero type.
Right.
They try to cater to every single group or subgroup in a society.
But I think that's part of the culture, where our part of the culture is, oh, look, superhero comics are selling really well. We're only going to do superhero comics because they sell the best. And I think that's a very different cultural approach than what Japan does, or Korea, or China, or whatever they
At
do.
one point, we did do romance comics.
Yes. And then at some point, somebody said they don't sell as well as superheroes comics. We'll put a superhero comic book on the schedule instead, and we'll sell, 10,000 more.
So
do
we'll
you think
cannibalize.
they would have?
Well, yeah, we'll cannibalize instead of growing the pie. We'll cannibalize.
Yeah. So do you think if they would have promoted the romances more, they would have done better? Or are we as a society just resistant to comics in general because we've been told?
I think they'd have to learn what kind of romantic stories to tell, because the kind of romantic comics that were being done reached a certain audience, and that audience aged out.
Right.
So then you need to find out what the next audience was.
Right.
Or
you can't
find something that'll still speak to that other audience.
Because there were two things that were happening culturally at the time when romance comics and Western comics died out, which is, one is we were understanding that romance comics were not representative of the way romance should really be between two people. They were really sort of hokey 1950s comics trying to be sold in the 1970s. And the other is, when we learned about Westerns, the real West, of course, was not at all like Western comics. And so there was sort of a cultural swing where people started to understand what the West really was, and that the white guy in the cowboy hat with the 6 guns just shooting people
with a vest, and don't forget the little tie around the neck.
Right. The kerchief, the
kerchief.
Right. That was not representative of the actual West. And I think that killed the audience, because that's not the real West. That's not real romance. That's not.
And they didn't keep up. They didn't start telling kinds of stories that would appeal to that cultural understanding. And they just said, well, that's Westerns are like this, and that's all they'll ever. Well, no, they could have been more if you'd used this and come up with ways to tell stories about those types of cowboys and Westerns.
And they didn't.
No.
I've seen photos. There's little kids, and they're surrounded by 200 different titles in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me, if I take a point of view of looking back, it seems like the distribution wars that were happening at that time is what kind of killed all these other types of comics that everybody had access to at the time, but we don't have access to anymore. And that didn't happen in Japan, as far as I know. It's not like publications were trying to outbid each other. They're buying, Joe Simons and Jack Kirby's Captain America and then Captain Marvel, and they were taking over each other and cannibalizing each other until there were only a few, and those few dictated what was being produced, and that's why we no longer have 40 different genres. It is, superheroes, horror, and everything else.
Well, because what there was a huge growth in comics during World War II, because the American GIs overseas and in America, it was okay to read comics, and so they read a lot of comics, and that's why there were a lot of war comics in addition to superhero comics, and the U.S. government was financing some of those comics, especially for the propaganda comics,
Exactly.
And so, but then once the war was over and the soldiers came back, they weren't interested in comics anymore, and comics started to become more for younger people. And the soldiers coming back had other stuff to do. They had trauma. They wanted to get married. They wanted to buy a house. They wanted to get a
Went to
job.
college.
Go
Started
finish
studying.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that they just really lost interest in that stuff. And so then the market became younger. And that's why Superman stories went back to being the most powerful man in the room is going to try to solve the mystery of who stole the pie. And
Oh yeah, and they were lifting fireman trucks and jumping through hoops with tigers. Yeah,
right, because that's what kids wanted to see. I mean,
there you go.
servicemen don't want to see that. Servicemen want to see Superman, Captain America punch Hitler.
Yeah.
And
Javier, you weren't here earlier when I was saying that the Japanese government is actually promoting manga and anime because it is because the revenues are now streaming all across the world. And the more that they promote and encourage the growth of manga and anime in Japan, the more money that brings into Japan from outside revenue streams.
Right.
Whereas our government has always like poo-pooed comics,
Oh, and arts in general, they really, the only way they support it is through the educational system. But otherwise, it's, I don't care. That's they're very hands off.
When an education system starts running into monetary problems, what are the first things cut?
Of course, arts.
It's the arts.
The arts programs.
Arts and music.
Not the sports. Not the sports.
Okay,
And not,
but sports can return trophies, Rob. We can get trophies with sports.
Yeah. Sports is very easily measurable compared to each other.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because all those people that earned those are gone.
Right. And also, I think America has a lack of appreciation for the arts as a culture, as a people, and they don't. Every time a government funded artist does something weird that's original and fun, people look at it like, well, that's go ahead and do the art that you want, but not that art. And so we don't tend to like people who are uniquely personal or who are independent and of their own style. We have a very narrow, thing about what we like as art.
All right. Say I'm coming along and I'm Miss Moneybags and I hand you.
Yes. Are you single?
All the money that you could possibly want to start your own production company, your own comic book company. How are you going to run it? What are you going to do?
I'll smuggle drugs into the country. There's no point. There's no money in comics. I wouldn't waste your money.
How much? I mean, it depends. Am I able to? Do you want me to turn a profit, or do you want me to lose the money?
See what I mean?
I have an unlimited funds. So how would you run your company?
It's a bottomless well.
What kind of product would you produce? And how would you produce it?
Well, innovation time.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, what do you think?
I agree with Javier. I would look at, because every comic book company that has come along in the last 40 years has been identical. I mean, not the characters are different and the artists and writers are different or whatever, but the stuff produced is identical, and it's there's and it's all, they've all gone out of business basically. They all run out of money, they all run out of vision, or they all fire Jim Shooter. And I think that's so I think I would have to look at that and sort of dissect it and say, okay, how can I not do that? What's a better approach? Because I like what Javier said when he first came on about how the Japanese creators sort of band together with specialties. There's a bike artist, and there's a face artist, and there's a background artist, and there's a tall buildings in perspective artist, and that kind of stuff. And I think that
you would kind of go back to the old bullpen model. You'd have all your artists in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I wouldn't necessarily call it that. It would be because we live in a culture where people could just work from their house now.
Well, that's true.
And so, instead of handing something to Rob, I could just
digitally send it.
usually send it to him, and he could look at it and that kind of stuff.
Well,
And so,
or you set it up so that everything that's being worked on is in one place and
Right.
everyone can access it.
One Dropbox or
So
whatever.
yeah, so you've got a central place where everything is kept, but everyone can access it to work on it.
right, but I wouldn't
So-
want to beat up my team who are working 19 hours a day and eating cold ramen just to make the thing work. It would have to be, everybody's on salary, everybody has health benefits, everybody has, a decent package where they can live and work and be happy and still have a life. That mythical work-life balance that freelancers don't really get. And so, and then would I do a line of books, or would I rather do just one book and like narrow focus into the one vision, like pretend that I'm making movies and I'm only making one movie at a time? Or am I going to make, 4 comics a month? And I would just have to look at what we could do.
Javier?
You have unlimited.
I'm trying to figure out some way to do it all with the kind of financing you're talking about. There's no reason to keep it limited to comics. I mean, I would create everything: animation, previs, movies.
I saw that, Tom.
TV shows, shirts,
Webtoons.
toys. I mean, why would it just be in the print media? Why would it only be online? I would use AI to
You would
animate
integrate
everything.
it just like anime and manga.
Yes.
Listen,
They do
why would I
video
even bother
games,
with
This is a
manga.
better idea. I'm gonna sign up with Javier.
See,
Okay.
this happens when
You guys are running it together.
I'm an indie creator, and I've always thought about how the bad guys would rule the world. I would use your money and just run
Well, I'm a
governments better
lonely
than they
rich
do.
widow with no nobody to leave my money to, so I'm gonna just splurge it all on you guys, and you just go crazy. I'm a billionaire.
You show up with a sack of money with dollar signs on the bag and just drop it off
Okay.
every week, and we're good.
All right.
Okay, so
we're
we're
gonna
gonna have the
So
Lugo
you're
Mason
Aunt Scrooge.
studio.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I like Javier's approach very much because you by spreading out into the different areas, you can grow bigger faster, and everything you do focuses back on your product.
You're diversifying your genres, but all back to not the genres, but you're diversifying your output stream.
Right. You're telling your story across different media.
Right. Which gets you more eyes on it, because some
Yeah.
people like books, some people like cartoons, some people like video games.
Yeah.
Some people like card games, like I said, I just finished doing a
Yeah.
bunch of Ultraman cards.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm-
for a card game.
I'm
And it
working-
came out,
you-
and it coincided. They
you-
coincided the whole card game thing with the Netflix Ultraman movie. So
right. Everything integrates.
It's funny that comics can do all the things that everybody else does, but nobody else can do comics like comic book people do.
That's
For
correct.
example, we could take a property, let's say Magic the Gathering, and make a comic book out of it. But you can't make a trading card game out of a comic book. Not a lot of people.
Not as
A lot of
easily.
thought is thought.
It can be done. It can be done, but it's not as easy.
Right.
Right,
So
yeah.
we can do movies on paper, but making a movie, it's exponentially much harder. And
It takes
we
more
can do
people.
science
Number one.
fiction.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about romance comics? There's an audience for that. They're just in
Yeah.
the young adult book section. But
Yeah.
they're
Romance
there.
books. Romance books sell millions of copies.
Well, also,
course.
Yeah.
there's a market that we're not talking about, which is that Scholastic Books graphic novel market that has blown open the high school romance genre, with what DC and Marvel should have been doing all along, but now that space is occupied by Simon and Schuster and Harper Alloy and Scholastic, and that's where kids are reading about romance.
Captain Underpants and stuff.
Yeah,
oh, my grandson reads Captain Underpants and Dogman.
right.
It's
gets them from the-
embarrassing when I
from
went
the
to my
school
kid's
library.
school. They were
They're in the-
selling books, and this 10 pages and it's $30 hardback. I'm like, I buy comics that are 40 times better than this for $5, and I complain.
My grandson's getting those out of the elementary school library.
Yes.
Dogman and Captain Underpants.
When my oldest was in 5th grade, they did I forget what they call it. I think they call it a unit. They did a unit on graphic novels, which is they spent 3 weeks. The class read graphic novels in class, and then they wrote a paper about it, and they did a presentation about it. And so people love comics. It's just that
and there's so
Marvel and
many
DC
different
gave up
kinds.
some of that stuff.
My daughter just took a class in college and about parasites, how that works in different parts of society. She watched the movie from Wuhan, and they gave her a book, a graphic novel called Black Bomb. Hold on, I think I have a copy of it here. You know what? I think I threw it away because she hated it. But it's in the style of the Hernandez brothers,
right?
Black and white, very contrasting, and that's a college level course. So the comics are there. We've already been like 30 years. We've been integrating them into the curriculum of colleges. It's there, and there's comics for everybody.
Storytelling has been with human beings since we first started drawing those animals on the cave wall.
Right,
and that woman was talented too.
That's
because I wasn't a guy. We were just banging stuff with a stick. They're the ones that were.
Yeah, in fact, it probably was.
There's some in the. Shoot, I don't know. I don't remember enough about this, but I saw a documentary where they were showing the cave art and why it was drawn at a certain angle and why it did this and why it did that. And it turns out when you shine a light, like when you shine the light from a fire onto the cave, it looks like some of the characters are moving ever so slightly. It looks like
flickering flames.
Right.
They were doing animation with flames. Look at that.
Right. And so that's
exactly.
And that was, back when we were all, ugly.
So we all kind of agree that
uglier.
If we had the money, we would kind of follow the Japanese model of making books and integrating with multimedia.
I would create some sort of nexus company that would look for and attract creative people interested in banding together to do what you're talking about. Create a space where people that hey, you got an idea, bring it here. We'll turn it into all this stuff.
We're an incubator.
I'll do all the trees and rocks.
Incubator, I like that. Yeah.
An incubator. That's a good way to put it.
Tech does that.
Yeah.
And small businesses, developers do that.
And that's what makes me think of that is the Beatles tried that with Apple Corps.
Yes.
They tried that, but they were very bad at it. They were
high all the time.
And they weren't businessmen.
That's why they were bad at it.
Yeah, but I think
they weren't good managers.
I think the emulating of manga has come from the Scholastic Books part of the American comic book scene, where it's genres that are ignored by Marvel and DC. It's an audience that's ignored by Marvel and DC. It's a kid-friendly audience that has gravitated toward comics, and they don't have that collectible, gotta get them all mentality.
Yeah.
And the graphic novels are very creator focused, like Raina Telgemeier. She's got 1 million graphic novels in print that sell. And there's not a DC or Marvel comic that does that. So
I don't know. I would try to figure out a way to make print ink cheaper and grow more trees, because that'll help everybody.
Right, well,
that's
absolutely. Stop making the paper out of trees. You make it out of other fibers.
Bamboo, which is very, very sustainable.
Or yogurt and cottage cheese. You mix it and you flatten it out and you bake it.
Out of something more abundantly
available. Great paper, and it lasts a long time. So, but there's other ways to do it. Yes.
I think we've solved all the problems in the comics industry tonight.
I really feel good about the future.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
I think the Lugo Mason company will be awesome.
Well, I only had a piece
Mason
of it. Javier had the whole thing.
I keep trying to win the lottery, guys. If I win the lottery, we'll start it up. All right. When I win a big one.
Every time it gets over 500 million, I'm in because
I do the same, and I always say the same thing. If I ever won the lottery, then you guys would be working for me.
Oh, I'd happily do it. If I won the lottery, I'd put like $2 million aside for my old age, and then I would just try to blow the rest creatively.
Yep. Yep. Set aside for my family. Yep. Set aside for my family, so they wouldn't have to worry. And then
and create a little bit of generational wealth that can go downhill, and then
Yep.
I'm in.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining us, you guys. At first, it was just Rob and I was in a panic, but it went much, and then Tom came, and all I have to do is wind him up and turn him on, and all my problems are solved.
And thanks for showing up, Javier. I mean, if this sneaks up on you, you promise. Do
you do any of the regular podcasts, Javier?
Not regularly. Not to say,
we're here.
My schedule is kind of off for a variety of life reasons. But this topic did interest me, and I did have intentions of setting time aside. It just ran away from me before I knew it. It was like,
going on.
What other topics seem interesting to you?
I'm sorry?
What other topics seem interesting to you that Barb could write up?
I'm an artist who would like to write. I'm an artist who's seems limited to just superhero because that's all I can get hired for, who wants to do everything.
Right.
I just did a 10-page story for free for a friend. I love the genre. I did a horror story, same deal, because I love the genre. I want to be challenged. It's one of those weird things when writers come to me and say, what do you want to draw? I say, I want to draw your imagination. I don't just want to draw an arm or a leg or a person or a specific location. I want a challenge, an external challenge. So
the horses would be a challenge.
Give me the worst thing you could do. I mean, make it a slug fight between slugs. I don't know. I'll make that exciting. That's my job. You need to fire my imagination. Once you give me that spark, I'm going to run with it like I got 100 horses on fire trying to trot me down and kill me. That's me. That's the creative engine that I want to push. So if you can hit any of those, that creative challenge,
I'm thinking motorcycle horse fight
with lances. There you go. Boom.
In a laboratory.
Yeah.
I swear to, yeah.
Weirder things have happened. Making mice or turtles. It could be a thing.
I'm plotting this out right now.
Well, thanks for showing up, guys. I really appreciate it, and thank you, audience. We've hit quite a few people watching today, which is very, very nice. And I thank you guys for showing up. And audience, if you ever have any ideas on shows that you would like to see, please drop us a line. We would be more than happy to do it. Please like and subscribe and follow Silverline.
Down below.
We have a brand new little what is this thing? Barcode up here in the top, which will take you to
up in that corner,
Silverline Comics.
Yeah, up in the corner, up in Barb's corner.
Yep. So as we like to say on Wednesday,
that's a name, Barb's Corner. There you go.
Barb's Corner.
Does this podcast have a name already?
Yeah. No. Yes, it has Wednesday Wham.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And as we like to say at the end of every Wednesday Wham.
Oh yeah.
Make mine Silverline.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, this is Paul Pelletier. Make mine Silverline. Is that okay, Roland?